Hey there, welcome to Abundant Source Raw, and in this video I wanted to talk a little bit about moderation, the key to a balanced life, or so I've heard. So most people think of moderation as being sort of a center point in a spectrum with two extremes at the end, and so the extremes might be something like violence, and then over here you've got gentleness, and maybe assertiveness, and then subtlety, something like that. And so people think that if you're at one end, or sort of in that area of one point of the spectrum, that you have an unbalanced life and you are too assertive or you're too gentle, and if you're way at the other end, the people will call you an extremist. You're just extremely violent or an extreme pushover, something like that. But what I've actually found is that moderation is not balance. Moderation, to me, is actually the opposite of balance. And what I've found is that the spectrum that people see as a straight line, with moderation being the center and the balanced point, is not really a straight line, but more of a circle. And moderation is at one end of the circle, and then at the other end of the circle over here, you've got the extremes. And when you hit the very end point of one extreme, they are intertwined and connected, and you've actually hit the other end of the opposite extreme. So these extremes are not way over here and way over here, but as you go around and you are more on one end of the spectrum, once you hit the very most extreme point of the spectrum, you are now at the other extreme point, and they meet in perfect harmony. And when I see moderation, when I think of moderation, I think a nice house with a decent job and a pretty nice family, and a pretty nice car, and some okay friends, and maybe going out to the bar and having a couple drinks, keeping it in moderation, maybe once a week. To me, that's moderation, and it's not balanced. To me, moderation can only bring moderate happiness, and moderation can only bring a moderate life, and that just sounds really boring. And if you take a closer look, it really isn't balanced. True balance is actually at the opposite end of this circle, where the two extremes meet. As you go along the circle, you can become, maybe you go this way and you just become more angry and violent, and maybe very excited, and you've just got all this kind of energy flowing through you, and it's being expressed in worse ways. And as you go along the circle, you're getting less and less from moderation. It's becoming more and more extreme, and you're becoming more of this person who is very extreme in other people's eyes. And maybe the same way, if you go this way, maybe you'll get very shy, and it could even lead to depression and despair, and just to the point of almost suicide as you get to the extremes. And then as you hit the very end, then there's wholeness. There is absolute unity and absolute oneness, and both of the extremes meet and intertwine. And this is basically here, this is the source. Moderation is like the opposite of oneness. Moderation implies basically duality, and moderation is kind of the worst of everything, where at the extreme end, it's sort of the best of everything. You are living life to the fullest over here. At this point, you've learned to be intense and relaxed at the same time, where over here in moderation, everything is just kind of mediocre. You're not really living anything to the fullest. You're not experiencing anything fully. You're kind of half-heartedly and half-assing everything, thinking that moderation will bring you greatness. I don't know. What could moderation bring you other than just a moderate, sort of boring, unfulfilling life? How do you expect to have a full, blissful life if everything you're doing is just in moderation? I think the worst thing that comes to my mind when I think of moderation is how much discipline it takes, how much you have to work at it, how hard you have to work to experience true moderation. And for all that hard work, it's like you're only getting half of the payout, where at the other end of the spectrum, where the extremes meet, once you hit that point, then it's like effortless, and there's nothing you have to do, but the payout is infinite and undescribable. And it's very tricky to get there, though. Well, it's not, but we've sort of made it tricky. And so as you venture off from moderation into the other ends of the spectrum, it's actually not a great thing to be too far on the spectrum. The farther you get on the spectrum, the further you travel towards one end and the other, then the more extreme you are becoming, and a lot of the time the more you will actually be attached to things and attached to life, and the more you will be caught up in the illusion. And so what I've kind of found is I've seen 3 ways, basically, that you can get to that point of total unity and total fulfillment, total extreme bliss. And that is by going one way. So you can, let's say if one way leads to sort of upliftment and positivity, and the other way leads towards negativity and despair, then what you can do is you can go up the road of positivity, and you can work on yourself and build yourself up, and you can sort of get better and better and better and better. But as you go up that scale, up that way, you have to be able to let go of the positivity. You have to be able to let go of wanting to be successful. There's kind of a fork in the road somewhere along these paths where you can get more caught up in the illusion and in success and in positivity, or you can keep going towards extreme bliss. And that's going to really test your beliefs, and you're going to have to let go of basically everything if you ever want to reach that point, because otherwise you're just going to head the wrong direction. You're just going to become better and better as far as the earthly world can see it. You look like you're getting successful, but what's happening is you're kind of just getting more lost, and you're trying to become better, but becoming better never ends, and you get caught up in this whole notion of being your best, and by chasing after that, you're actually running away from your best self. So it can be a little tricky when you're taking these paths towards unity. And as far as the other way goes, this is what I would really like to, put people's attention on, because I know there's a lot of people suffering and in despair right now, and I just want to be able to sort of illustrate this in a way that's going to give you some hope, and just so you can see the truth and not have to buy into crap, and know that everything is okay. So see if I can do that. But as you're going along the path of despair, the victim path, I am totally worthless, and everything always happens to me, and nobody understands me, and you get deeper and deeper into that. And so the path you can take for that when you come to your crossroads is either deeper despair until most likely sickness and either having disease take over and kill you from just total despair, or suicide, killing yourself, taking that route. But if you can actually, if you are in despair and you're way at the end and everything seems lost, then my advice would be to just keep going. And most people, when they're at some point in the spectrum, they think that they've hit rock bottom and they think that they are at the lowest point of their being, but it's not true. If you were truly at rock bottom, if you had truly accepted defeat and been at the lowest point of your being, then you would have hit the other end of the spectrum, and the other extreme would have grabbed you by the hand, and you would be at total oneness with everything. You would not have a care in the world. And this is what happens to a lot of enlightened beings on this planet, is that you hear of these people who just are so down and are in just total depression, and then all of a sudden a revelation, an explosion of consciousness, and all of a sudden it's just everything is laughable, nothing matters, and they totally see the world how it is. And it's because they went so far into despair that they were touched by the other end. And then that is how this spontaneous explosion of awareness happens, is they've reached the end of the extreme. And so I see a lot of people who are, pretty sad, think they have it bad, and they just say, I've hit rock bottom. I'm at the lowest point. This is it for me. And like I said, either if this was the lowest point, you'd either be at the other end, totally blissed out, or you probably would have taken your life. And so the way out of despair is either, usually you have to have some help from somebody else if you want to make the long journey back the other way towards moderation and then towards, positivity and success. And that's a long journey back. And it may actually be easier if you want to reach the greatest point of your being to fall deeper into despair. The further down you go, the less things start to matter. And as you get to the end, you get to this point where nothing matters. And then when nothing matters, you don't have any more illusion. You've got no more delusions of how things should be, what things are, and how you don't really care. You've given up, you've totally given in, you don't care about your circumstance anymore, everything's meaningless. You've fallen so far into depression that whether you live or die, it doesn't matter. And when you finally hit that point, then you are at peace. Total peace, because there's nothing left of your being. Everything's been emptied. People think they have nothing left, and I'm like, no, you've still got your beliefs, you've still got your ideas of what you should have and what you should be, and what you should be doing right now. You're still clinging to things, you're still hanging on to life, and you need to give up on life. And once you give up on life, then you can fully experience it. Once you've let go of everything, once everything is gone and there's nothing left, then you're open to receiving everything. You are completely unlimited potential, and it only happens when you've let go of everything. And you can reach that point going either way. You can build yourself up and then finally get to the point where basically you are an advocate for life, and you are a very happy person, and you are feeling more and more fulfilled as you go. And once you reach total enlivenment, then you've also reached the other spectrum of death. And you realize that they're not different and that they are united, and there is no individuality. So you can take the path of life to get to death and unity, or you can take the path of despair and death, and it will lead to life. They will both lead to unity. You can only fully experience life if you know death, and vice versa. And so those are sort of the two ways there that I've seen, but then I also mentioned a third way, and that is by bypassing the paths altogether. You don't need to take a long journey towards enlightenment. In fact, it is definitely the most difficult way to try and search and journey, because in the search you will be running away from unity. You think that you have to look for something outside yourself when total peace and joy and oneness is right here, and you don't have to go anywhere to find it. You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to fall into despair until you have nothing left, and you don't have to go off journeying and trying to find happiness until you've reached the point of, death, basically. You can sit right where you're at, and you can close your eyes, and you can already be at this point of unity. You can be at the point of total oneness and total bliss, far away from the mediocrity of moderation, which was supposed to be the whole basis of this video. Is, moderation is basically the opposite of where you want to be at. Moderation is not balanced. I think moderation is probably the most imbalanced, and you never really get to experience anything fully if you are choosing the path of moderation, in my opinion. So if you really want to achieve, this state of bliss and unity as quickly as possible, then don't go searching. Don't go down these paths. Enlightenment is the pathless path. You get there typically not by going down any of these paths. It's actually probably very rare that somebody will reach the point of such extreme that awareness will fill their mind. It's much simpler and easier and joyful to not go searching and not go down these paths and not have to find this point of extreme that you have to battle for. It's better just to, in my opinion, sit down and be with it right away. You don't have to go anywhere, and you can actually experience this right now, just by letting go and just by being at peace with yourself. You totally bypass any path taking, any searching, having to go on any type of journey. You're just there, experiencing it in the moment right now. I don't want you to be moderately at peace or moderately healthy or moderately excited. I want you to be extremely, totally, with every cell in your body, ecstatic and as healthy as possible, to the point that you've never even thought possible. I want you to experience life in its fullness and all its creativity. So be extreme. Don't be moderate, please. Don't be mediocre. If you're going to do something, give it 100%, full speed ahead. Give it everything you've got, all of your heart, and embrace it fully. And that's how you'll gain some fulfillment, especially when it comes to meditation and being connected. If you can embody the source fully, then your life is going to be enhanced in every way, and you're just going to be a light for the world. So this video has gotten a lot longer than I intended it, so I think I'm going to end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up if you're still watching, and subscribe for more videos on fruitarianism, spirituality, and natural living. And I'll talk with you guys in the next video.